Hey everyone, welcome back to the Marin Bikes YouTube channel. Duncan Shaw here, and on today's video I'm on the streets of Glasgow and we're going to be teaching you how to do a crank flip. A crank flip is essentially using your feet to send your cranks and your pedals a full rotation backwards and then catching them again with your feet. You can learn them pretty much anywhere, and once you do you can throw them pretty much anywhere when you're cruising along. In terms of bikes, I think the perfect bike to learn these on is to be able to have a setup where you can put the seat up a little bit, so you can basically throw your first crank flips while sitting down with a little bit of space to maneuver with your feet and legs. If I was being a real stickler, I would say the perfect bike to learn this on is a full suspension mountain bike. It's just that rear suspension gives you a little bit of cushioning if you miss those pedals and come down quite hard in the seat. So for step number 2, now you've got your setup dialed, we're going to start looking about the positioning of your feet. I would say the typical position for my forward foot when I'm riding trails and trials is to be something like that. I basically move my front foot to something a little bit like that. Just means that I can kind of push back a little bit on the pedal to get that sort of purchase to go back. So now we've figured out exactly where we want our feet to be positioned on the pedals, we need to think a little bit about crank positioning. So what you want to do is, using your back foot with a bit of weight, you want to sort of get them round to about there. And the difference of that little few degrees makes is absolutely massive when it actually comes to throwing them. It is pretty much impossible to get the grip no matter what your foot position is on the pedals when they're level, but when they're back a little bit it just allows you to just get that little bit of purchase to start throwing them round. This is probably the first step. Like, before you're even moving you can actually just start getting a really good feel for this actual move just by standing on your bike and throwing them round like that. You'll quickly realise what works best for you in terms of foot positioning. You'll realise what works best for you in terms of crank positioning, and yeah, you just get a really good feel for the actual move before you even start moving. So step number 3, we're going to finally start rolling around and start throwing some crank flips with the seat up. So as you're feeling out throwing them and getting a little bit more confident about the actual throw part of the crank flip, you then need to start thinking about the catch part. We're going to throw it with your favoured foot, your forward foot, whether that's the right or the left, and whatever foot you throw it with, that is the foot you want to catch it with. It's definitely worth perfecting with the seat up to save you sort of getting your fingers burnt and getting put off by maybe hurting yourself a little bit in the advanced move. So yeah, basically just overdo the whole practice and really get a good feel for it before moving on to the next step, which is going to be putting the seat down and then start throwing them. I've got my seat slammed as low as it can go, and yeah, basically just going to have to start gently throwing what we've been doing, but without that luxury of sitting down. So it's a little bit more important to kind of get that pop up, so you need to give yourself enough time to, well, you need to give your pedals and cranks enough time to rotate down before it's time for your feet to come back down. A little bit more weight on your hands, but you can almost just kind of like pop up, pivoting on your wrists a little bit on the handlebars. It's not the perfect technique, but it just gives you a little bit more time, and it means you can kind of lower yourself down a little bit as well, so you're not just like full on coming down with your bum on the seat or your shins to the pedals. You can kind of feel it out with the weight forward. So it's all about just gradually moving it back at a pace that you're comfortable with, so you're basically throwing them with your weight sort of central over the seat, because that's going to be the technique that you need to do bunny hop crank flip. So step number 5, which I have in my notes as the bunny hop crank flip, and I'm going to be completely honest with you guys, I actually have never done a bunny hop crank flip in my life. It's not really, crank flips aren't really something I've done a whole lot of, and a bunny hop crank flip is definitely not something I've done. So I suppose for this section we're going to be learning together. Here we go. Seat probably comes a little bit sooner than you would like, but better than it not being there at all. Right, it's coming. Definitely harder to get the cut. I think you have to go a wee bit steeper with the pedals, because I feel like I'm doing the same thing as I was doing with the regular just standing up one in the last step, but it's just not got the purchase to push it back. That one? Don't think I quite caught it in the air, but that is definitely my best one yet. It's so frustrating when it just doesn't go. Nearly. I just want to catch one where I'm like, I want to catch it still in the air. Getting there. After saying how confident I was about being able to do bunny hops, I can now definitely see the reason why people would want to do it off like a little flat bank. Just to give yourself a little bit more time in the air, because when you try to throw it and catch it all during air time, you actually do need more time than I thought. So I think basically I need to either bunny hop faster or throw it faster. Probably my best one yet. So pretty stoked on that, to be honest. For the first time in a Marin how-to, I've learned a little bit of something for myself as well. As always, if you have any questions for myself about the technique, please comment below. But in the meantime, stay safe and we'll catch you next time. Peace.